Hey everybody, this is Shantae, and welcome to another episode of Healing in Place. Tonight I am joined by a special guest, which is not only a guest, but she's my friend as well. It's Dr. Gail Stanback, who has a doctorate in public health, and she works as an administrative assistant too for the state of New York. So we're going to talk to Gail a little bit about tonight, Sunday night anxiety, as well as her tenure at her current job and how it affected her health and her mental well-being, being on the job for 23 years, right, Gail? 23 years, you said?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
nice. That's good.
Yes, 23 years. So I usually post these videos on Sunday because I know that's a night of high anxiety for people who are in toxic workplaces. I know I used to struggle with anxiety on Sundays, not wanting to get up, just dreading what's going to happen that day, the next day, whether it's that email, that coworker, just you already know. I had a hard time this week with the not with the coworker, which is usually not the issue. I'm usually having issues with managers, but this particular last week was a coworker, but I'll get into that in my video next week. But tonight I want Gail to talk a little bit about her tenure and her experience. So Gail, if you could tell us a little bit about what you do as an administrative assistant too for the state of New York first.
Well, I work with students. I can tell you what I've done over these years. Um, I was in charge of a big part of my job was graduation review. So what
Hmm.
I would do is I would look at each student who has sent in an application. I designed an application on SurveyMonkey. If you wanted to graduate, you go into it and you let me know that you're looking to graduate, and I would look at your degree and make sure that you had everything in place that made you eligible for graduation. So um, that took a lot of analysis as far as making sure that the students had advanced level, liberal credits, and so all of those things go into the person's area of study. They need a certain amount of degree in order to cover that area of study that they want the degree in. If it's a bachelor's degree versus an associate's degree, all of those different things. So that was my job. And often looking for credits elsewhere the student may have hanging out there to cover their shortage or if something went wrong. So it was really fun doing that and working with the faculty. We had a lot of leeway, so I could say, "Oh, the student got 8 credits," because they would get like 16 credits for taking a CLEP test, that
Hmm.
and a foreign language. So I was like, "Oh, okay, they got some extra credits here that we can use," and I would, change the degree around so that it'll work. Also, I was responsible for making sure that the student's portfolio was in place. And at Empire, it was very different kind of college where you could get up to 96, now it's 93 credits for experiential learning. And that experiential learning could come um, from other colleges that you've attended with C's and above, or you writing essays to get credits for your life experiences. So it was a really cool way to get your degree. Sometimes you just had to do 2 semesters to get your bachelor's degree if you had enough credits coming in from other places. So I was working with that department, and then I was transferred to Brooklyn because we got a new director, and she she had me transferred out of the department. And so for the last what's this? For the last 10 years, I've been doing different things. Working in the Office of Enrollment Management, and right now I'm currently working in the Office of Campus Security. And that just happened a month ago. Um, I was given a new supervisor, And right now I'm just analyzing budgets and learning to work to do an analysis for forecasting and those kinds of things, and making sure, that the money is documented for each account and different things like that. So I've done many different things at the college. I worked with a mentor, working with the different clubs and giving events um, at Prospect Park's Picnic House in Brooklyn, and just being really busy and working with the students. I'm also an alumni at a college, so I was involved in a lot of the alumni events, and I tried to also um, um, be part of all of the events from the Black Male Initiative at the college, and they also welcome um, Black women too. So there's
So
different things that I was doing.
in your tenure of 23 years, I know you've seen a lot. And can you tell me a little bit about your education? Because that'll play into some questions that I have to ask you as we go on.
I started my education in CUNY, John Jay College, and then I came over to Empire University, and I was like, wow, so I transferred all my credits from John Jay, and within a year, the max two, I received my associates in public policy and my degree program in public administration, my bachelor's. I went on after that and I went to St. Joseph's and I received my master's in business administration, which out of all the degrees that I've attained, it was the most intense and difficult degree to get. It wasn't easy. It required accounting, statistics, and um, all of the degrees that I've had are not easy degrees. They're very challenging, but the MBA, it was the most challenging.
You
And
have a
my
doctorate.
doctorate, yes, and I also have a doctorate in public health. And
Okay.
that's the most challenging part of that was the dissertation process.
Hmm.
And I ran into racism in that because when you're
Hmm.
doing a dissertation, you are given a mentor who has to sign their name on your work. And
Okay.
my work was about diabetes and the cultural aspects of
Mhm.
um, of diabetes as it pertains to soul food. And so it discussed the origins of soul food and the origins of a lot of the things that we eat today are from Africa and other countries. So, and I had a white mentor, and he kept BSing me, and I realized, oh, he's trying to sabotage me. So I went and called people on him and sent them his emails to me, and he got really angry, and he said, "I'm not working with you anymore." But he didn't know that was my intention, is to get him not to work with me anymore. And so, I just pretended like I was so devastated, but all the time, that is what I had hoped and prayed for, is
Hmm.
to get this racist away from me. And so I was given another mentor, and she has since passed. She was a white woman, and she was so, oh my gosh, she was so wonderful. And I finally was able to complete the dissertation process. And she called me and she said, "Hello, Dr. Stanback." And I was on lockdown with COVID. It was March of 2020. And when I had to defend, I was defending in North Carolina because I was locked in. And it was one of the most wonderful feelings that I could ever have. But I often think about I didn't get to go to graduation,
Yeah.
and I didn't get to meet my mentor, and then she passed away. So,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, well, congratulations to you on
Thank
that
you.
because that's
Hmm.
big. So when you with all your education and your tenure in working for the state of New York, were you able to advance in your career?
No, no.
Okay.
I I I tried several times, and I had the dean tell me that, you know, I couldn't handle it, and then I watched her hire her cousin, um, straight out of college, but who only had a job at a movie theater as a professional, but she wouldn't hire me as one. And then I had another dean who, oh boy, I was doing an internship with one of the mentors. He was elite. He's a law professor, and she went to the dean went to his office and asked him not to work with me. I was working for free. I was, and he was like, why? And she was like, I just don't want you to work for him. And he said, Gail, I told her, I don't care what she says. I'm going to work with you. She said, you helped me so much for so many years. And so I was running into that all the time, because it was okay when I had a high school diploma, but once I got my MBA, I was no longer liked by, you know, my colleagues, and I was never given an opportunity to advance.
So over time, being in a job for so long, I understand that as well. I was had a job for over almost 13 years and was also same situation, not advanced, or they bring someone in and the person has a title, you don't, and you end up training that person. So that has happened to me, and I'm sure it happened to a lot of people who may be watching this channel. So what do you think the emotional and physical toll did working number one in this environment, being passed up for advancement, what did it do to your body and to your mental health?
Um, First of all, it made me angry all the time, you know, and so although I tried to balance it, you know, and have a good outlook because, oh boy, there were people there that I loved dearly and who loved me. So, but it became like a group of faculty members that I'm very close to, you know, mostly I hate to use the word minorities because I'm beginning to think that's even a lie. But
Yeah, we're not the
people who are
minority.
right, that people who are socially conscious,
Mhm.
faculty members, those are the ones that I were close to. There were some who were outright bigoted, but the ones that fear me the most are the ones who um, smile in your face and cut you down behind your back. And so there's a lot of that, and I didn't understand why my dad used to say to me, because he's from the South and my mother was born in Harlem Hospital. And he always said that he enjoyed the South better than the North because in the North they smile in your face, and and he said in the South they let you know they don't like you from the beginning. And so here in the North, like we don't know that we're hated maybe even more than in the South. And so we believe that we live in this liberal society in New York, but I can tell you from my experiences, um, from from first grade when I was bused to now, that that's not true. That we live in a racist society in New York State. So, I'm
And yeah, what do you think that racism within your job in academia? What do you how do you think it showed up in your body? Because this is what we
yes.
want to kind of drill down on.
Well, what I want to tell you is now after a brain MRI, they found bleeding in my brain.
Mm,
They found an aneurysm. They
wow.
found lesions on my optical nerves and lesions on my brain, and which are markers for MS. But and and other diseases. But either I'm in the beginning stages and it's still ongoing. It's still a mystery. Like sometimes like after all that they told me a year ago was wrong with me, sometimes I'm amazed that I'm still standing myself. Um, and I thank God for that, and but I see what it's done to me. So, now I'm a different person. Like I don't care anymore. Like you're not gonna stress me out. You're not gonna hurt me because I can't afford it. I
And
want if I
yeah, I was going to say, and all the research now is pointing to what stress does to Black people, not just men, but not just women, but men also. What racism actually harms you in ways that it hurts your body. Stress,
yes,
as we know, nobody can live in a high state of stress for so long. When we get stressed, our cortisol levels raise, and that's the stress hormone. So that leads to hypertension, it leads to raised blood sugar, it leads to autoimmune disease, and we are seeing that we're having these occurrences more so than often. I know that I got my hypertension in one of my last jobs that was extremely stressful. I know that I never had a bad diet. I always exercised, and I couldn't understand why I got high blood pressure. And it wasn't until, I started doing the research, and now doctors are actually saying it. Nobody, now they ask you at your doctor, are you stressed? 10 years ago, nobody ever said, are you stressed? And then if you say you're stressed, you better have a hell of a lot of backup, before you even try to get signed out of work. And because you're in academia, I wanted to show the correlation, but that it doesn't matter where you are if you're in these systems and you're under high stress, it will take effect on your body. As we've seen with the late Dr. Candia Bailey, she committed suicide and she was in academia. So she was
yes,
also dealing with a toxic manager. Her concerns were going unheard and she felt that she didn't have any other choice. So this is real and it's happening, and I'm just trying to, bring light to it so that we can try to save ourselves because we are losing each other inside of these systems.
all
I
right.
know we what are some things that you think I don't want to what are some things that you did to keep yourself settled or regulated, as we say, at work. So
I
say someone is going in your shoes right now who's in academia, what would you tell them to do?
well, what I did was first is I put family first. And my my number one career was being mom, you know. So they couldn't shake me,
Mhm.
and also I always strive to do better in my life. No matter what they did, I was involved with something. I was writing poetry. I was helping people constantly, always trying to push them and always encouraging them. And the other day, my coworker and colleague, he came by my desk, and because we closed down in our Brooklyn office, and he was like, "Gail, I'm gonna miss you." And he said, "I just want to thank you." I said, "They told my son he couldn't graduate, he was so hurt. He said, "But you called me on the phone and you figured out a way for him to graduate." See, he said he did cuss. He was like, "When that whatever said no," he said, "You found it." And I was like, I don't even remember, Matt, because that was my job, and that's what I love to do. I love to inspire people. I love to help people. So keep the eye on what you love to do. Like what helps you, no matter what someone tries to do. And I always fight back. And you know how I fought back? I fought back with words. Because you see, they want you to say, F you, kiss my,
Right.
this and that.
They want a
Boy,
reaction.
they want a reaction. I'll write them a whole page email with some very academic words, but they basically equate to that cursing out that you thought I was going to give you, but I'm not going to give you that. What I'm going to give you is an educated response to your racism and your bigotry. And then, and they try to say, oh, and always remember, never, what is that word? Never be insubordinate.
Mhm.
And so I got that message from a union leader. He said, Gail, you do whatever you want to do, but never be insubordinate. So whenever they tell me something to do something stupid, I always say, okay. And I just don't do it. So,
You you better
and
than you better than me. Insubordinate to me is means you don't get cursed out. So
okay.
that's my title of insubordinate. That's my definition of insubordinate. It's not I'm not cursing your ass out. But other than that, if I'm not doing something that I feel like I'm just I mean, I'll go back and forth, and of course, without getting out of character. But
Right.
for me, sometimes it's like you ask me if I'm you telling me to do something that I know I shouldn't be doing or it's totally wrong, I'm not going to do it. But my
Mm-hmm.
my 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 thing would be like just make sure your job is tight because once you're tight, they can't do
Yes.
anything with you. Right? If you
Mm-hmm.
keep your what you have to do intact, keep your records, everything, document everything, whatever you have to do, they can't and then anything after that is unlawful. It's unlawful, and it's unlawful to be bullied. It's unlawful to be harassed. So these are things that they can't do. They do it because a lot of times we don't know that we have rights. Just because somebody is you're employed at a job does not mean that I have to get on my knees. So
Right.
people should understand that as well. You always have a voice, and my
That's
famous line is
right.
everybody has somebody that they report to. So if that person
Mm.
that you report to is not doing what they're supposed to do, you go to their boss and be like, you know
That's what
what,
I did. I'm so glad you
person,
said
blah
that.
blah blah, right?
That's what I did
Don't
to
let
the
it stop
HR
here.
director. Hmm.
Let it keep going. Just let it keep
Yes.
going because at the top, no, at the end of the day, nobody wants a lawsuit.
Nope.
Right? So you have to always, like I said, don't get on your knees and don't bow down. Do what you have to do and speak up for
Never.
yourself. Because I think you mentioned
Never.
this earlier that not being able to say what you need to say is what swallowing your words is what hurts us because you
Hmm.
have to get that
Yeah.
stress out of your body some type of way. And then what happens? You
Yeah.
go home and you take it out on your family, you take it out on your kids, you may take it out on your husband or your mate because you're in a situation where you can't speak up. And that hurt us. That's hurting us. That's hurting us in the long run. But we don't have any much more time, Gail. And I do want to bring you back for a part two, but I'm so glad that you came and shed a little light for us on what happens in academia because it's not just corporate. It's across the board
No.
that we have to fight through these battles
Yes, we
just
do.
just to make a living. And that's the sad part. Because for the most part, people just want to make a living and take care of their families. All that extra stuff
Hmm.
we don't need. And
We
why
have,
do they
listen,
why do we have to go through all of that extra?
because we're so admired. You have to understand. And I try, like, I understand because I just put it in an analogy. Like, if if you were a racer, like, and then you were racing in this race against this one person, and they were always winning. And then, so you like, shucks, I really want to win. And so you trip them, and then you want to
Well,
win.
it could be some other things I do want to say, but I don't want to say. But I know that, like I said, people are getting ready for their Monday morning and they're, going through their rituals. But I just want to make sure that you go into your work week with a clear head. And I like to leave people
With a
with
clear
a,
head, and
yeah,
don't be
yes,
tripped up,
right.
because
And I like to,
they are going to try to trip you.
yes, and I like to, well, before we go, do a little breath work practice. But I know you have do you still have your business, Glucose and Me?
Yes, it's
So you
glucose
want
in
to just
me, and
talk about that, right? I mean, just
yes,
tell people where they can look for that information.
yes, you can go to glucoseinme.org, and I have a website, and I'm also doing a project called I'm sorry, Skin to Limb
Mhm.
project, and we're discussing on ways to keep our skin right, because diabetes, it affects us, our organs,
Yeah.
especially our veins and arteries and all of those things, and it slows down. It silently kills you. Like, you might think you're okay, you might feel like you're all right, but by that time it's attacking your kidneys, it's attacking your